Okay, so first of all, I apologize in advance. This is going to be one of those annoying talking head videos with nearly no B-roll. So today I might just make good background noise unless you like watching jaws flap and hands flying around. I also apologize if there's like wheezing in the background because my cat is snoring and it's so cute and I can't wake her up because that would make me a monster. So I discovered recently with professional help that I'm codependent. I'm the caretaking type. I develop unhealthy attachments to family, friends, and partners. I sacrifice my own health in the process, and I crave approval and praise like an alcoholic craves vodka. So what does this mean, and what do I do about it? You can probably guess what codependency means from the name. Co, meaning together, and dependent, meaning relying upon. This sounds like a regular relationship at first, so I never bothered to do any research about codependency while I was studying psychology and sociology. Couples, friends, and family all rely on each other, right? So what's wrong with mutual dependency? Turns out, basically everything. Interdependent and codependent are two very different things, bordering on mutually exclusive. If you were to make a Venn diagram of the two, it would look something like this. Interdependent people have their own personalities, hobbies, and boundaries. They are capable of leading lives independent of each other, but come to rely on each other for serious subjects, such as standards of living and expression of their individual feelings and desires. This doesn't mean that no post-separation depression or conflict would occur, only that they preserve their own identity throughout the process and come to stop relying on the other person. Instead, they find ways and resources to solve their problems independently. Codependent people, on the other hand, rely on their partners to an unhealthy extent. There are different kinds of codependent personalities, but today I'm going to focus on my own. Caretaking! Make no mistake, there is a world of difference between being a caretaker and a caregiver. In a Venn diagram, the circles between the codependent individual and family, partner, or friend overlap almost entirely. The codependent person, in this case, a moi, sacrifices their personal boundaries, desires, goals, and standard of living for the comfort and benefit of the other person. They wear themselves out making huge efforts and grand gestures in hopes of praise or another positive response from the other person. Their identity is compromised, and even if privately, comes to revolve around taking care of said partner, friend, or family member. For some people, this sounds sweet, even romantic, a sort of Florence Nightingale trope. But codependency is incredibly toxic and can even be dangerous. Let's go over some of the differences between a codependent caretaker and an interdependent caregiver. I pulled a lot of these from a combination of Psychology Today and What is Codependency. Sources down below as always. This part is going to be really embarrassing for me because I'm going to be open and honest about my own codependent qualities, both in the past and present. I'm being vulnerable, so if you're going to leave a comment today, please be gentle with me. Number 1, we are self-righteous about our own opinions. I used to be really bad about this. This is one of the most cringe-inducing qualities I had, and it still rears its ugly head from time to time. I asserted my opinions strongly and aggressively, usually without cause. I was always certain I was an ethical, just person standing on the moral high ground. Being antagonized or disagreed with just made me try to prop up my argument further. The only good thing I can say about this is, as Bill says on Family Guy, if you're going to dump on people, at least stand by your dump. The only thing worse than a raging, stubborn jackass is a person who pretends to change their opinion to pacify their peers. That being said, there's a whole world of better things than a raging, stubborn jackass, so I get no points for that. Number 2, we help compulsively. Everyone likes a nice person that puts others before themselves, right? But there's a difference between helping compulsively and helping voluntarily. If you hear your partner, family, or friend has a problem and you immediately start planning every step of the resolution, you may be codependent. If your partner, family, or friend asks for help and you volunteer to help them, that's more interdependence. Of course, there's a gray area to navigate in the middle, but this is going to differ based on communication styles and personal boundaries. If someone asks for help and you have the energy, time, and resources, helping them is the right thing to do. If you do not have the energy, time, or resources, or if helping them would violate your own personal boundaries, don't help them. There's no use in chomping at the bit to try and solve everyone's problems, especially when they didn't even ask for your help. Number 3, we are not good listeners. Compulsive helping leads nicely into this one, actually. When someone is speaking, do you follow the 4 rules of active listening? I sure didn't. You can find these rules all over, from the library to the internet, but I'll be basing my summary off of the Department of State's publication of the Overseas Schools Advisory Council. I'm a better listener now, but still, working on it. First rule, seek to understand before being understood. When you want to understand, your default state is listening. When you want to be understood, your default state is speaking. If someone opens up to you, they want to be understood and accepted. If you've been feeling the same way and want someone to understand and accept you, you're normal and you have every right to feel that way. Everyone wants to be understood. But save your own thoughts and feelings for a separate conversation and don't delve into them until your conversation partner has expressed the willingness to change topics or suspend the remaining conversation for later. The second rule is do not judge. No one will come to you with their private thoughts and conflicts with the intent of having you pass judgment. I was very bad about this as a teenager, but I'm proud to say that this is no longer the case as an adult. If someone has made a mistake, your job is not to judge them. Your job is to hear them out and offer advice if they request it. A conversation with a friend or partner should never be a judiciary hearing. Third rule of active listening, give your undivided attention. According to the college class I took back when woolly mammoths were roaming the earth, speakers will maintain an average of 70% eye contact, while listeners will maintain 90%. This doesn't need to always be true, especially if you're using the walk and talk method or performing some other kind of activity where you're both facing the same direction. But it does mean you need to turn down the volume on the TV, put your phone away, and not let yourself be distracted by any other kind of talking, reading, or background noise. This is not to say you have to ignore everything else at the sacrifice of your personal safety, such as hearing a train whistle or seeing the light change at a crosswalk, but you do need to take care to tune things out, like music or background conversations. For me, I'm so serious about this rule that if someone takes out their phone during a date and starts messaging while I'm speaking to them, there is no second date. Fourth rule of active listening, use this time effectively. Never, and I mean never, listen only with the intent to respond. When you do this, you may as well just speak to a mirror. This doesn't mean you don't acknowledge what they're saying with nods or yeahs or ahas, but it does mean that you do not use pauses to interject with things you want to add or shoehorn in your own experiences. If you want to show that you're listening and that the other person's experience is important, use their natural pauses to ask relevant questions. Did you ever find out why this person said that? Or, oh, so what's your next step? There's no reason for you to speculate or add your suggestions until the person speaking chooses to take the conversation in that direction. This suggestion should ring especially true for codependents who get irritated and bitter when their advice isn't followed. I used to be a very poor active listener, and then I wondered why my friends didn't want to come to me with their problems. I felt hurt by their lack of openness, and it led to unnecessary conflict. Now I adore active listening and do everything I can to follow the rules. I do have a bad habit of adding my own things that I have to say, but I'm happy to report I no longer jam my own experiences into the conversation. I genuinely enjoy hearing about their lives, from daily experiences to their own internal conflicts. So, 10 points to Ravenclaw. Alright, back to the main event. Number 4, we feel exhausted, angry, and resentful. Helping people should be an energizing, warm, and fuzzy sort of feeling. If your compulsive helping is burning you out, yet you continue to pressure yourself into helping, you're probably, guess what, codependent! This can be particularly strong when you volunteer to assist, but assign a condition or expectation. For example, you can't help clean your friend's room with the expectation that it will always remain clean thereafter. If your friend leaves laundry out next time you're over, this will just cause resentment between you. If you know they'll be grateful for the help, then help. If you think their room will just get messy again, don't. If you spend more time taking care of another person than yourself, you'll end up frustrated with the other person, whether you intend to be or not. Finally, number 5, we feel responsible for others. This is a bad one for me in terms of romantic relationships. I always want the other person to be happy, relaxed, and enjoying themselves, even at my own expense. I do as many of the chores as I can, even when sharing a living space, and bend over backwards to make sure they feel listened to and loved. I spend my money on spontaneous gifts, I cook their favorite foods, I do everything they ask to help them with their problems. I leap at the opportunity to make them happy and relieve their stress, yet ignore my own negative feelings. Of course, this leaves me completely drained emotionally and physically, and with no identity of my own. As discussed, I recognize some of these symptoms in myself and address them to the best of my ability. But resolving individual problems without seeing the bigger picture is like going grocery shopping when you don't know what you're cooking. You forget things, leave things out, or you choose one thing that isn't as important or suitable as another. So I think one of the reasons I've struggled with resolving my codependency is because I didn't recognize it as codependency. Codependency is associated with troubled childhoods, drug and alcohol abuse, all sorts of social taboos and negative influences. But no matter your background, you can absolutely develop codependency. If any of the things I listed earlier apply to you, look into it. You might be codependent, and that's okay. Just work towards resolving these hazardous habits so you can be a happier, more well-rounded person with mutually beneficial relationships, complete with your own boundaries and standards. So what am I doing to resolve my own codependency? I've been seeing a psychiatrist for over a year and spending a lot of time examining and evaluating my own behavior, but that's just not enough. It's hard to process my own feelings and observations by myself, but I'm not comfortable involving those close to me because I know I'll end up depending on them, which is the opposite of the point. So tonight, I'm going to a Codependency Anonymous meeting. I'm super nervous about it and experiencing all those classic imposter syndrome feelings. I've never had chemical or alcohol dependencies, nor has anyone in my close family. My upbringing was relatively normal, and I don't have any serious traumatic childhood events. I honestly feel like a dumb little snowflake going to this meeting. But I know that learning the experiences of others and finding a safe, positive place to express my own is going to be integral to recovering and growing as a person. Best or worst of all, I can't wait to find out how wrong I was about everything I said today. I'm sure I'll be really embarrassed editing and uploading this video once I figure out I'm an even bigger idiot than I thought before. Oh well, it's still not the dumbest thing on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, subscribe if you're enjoying my mental health journey, and give a thumbs up if you like exploring social and psychological tendencies just as much as I do. Thanks for watching, and wish me luck.